When the Michigan Wolverines took the court for the 1993 NCAA championship game, it was supposed to be a coronation for one of the most famous and influential collegiate teams of all time. Instead, the closing moments of that epic clash against North Carolina went down in history for all the wrong reasons, with Michigan star Chris Webber calling the most infamous timeout in basketball history and effectively putting the kibosh on that coronation. After capturing their first NCAA title in 1989, Michigan proceeded to take the basketball world by storm in the early 90s. The Wolverines' 1991 recruiting class, consisting of Webber, Jalen Rose, Juwan Howard, Jimmy King, and Ray Jackson, was among the best ever, and it didn't take long for the Fab Five to make their mark. Michigan went 25-9 during the 91-92 season, with head coach Steve Fisher starting all 5 of his freshmen by February. A couple months later, the Wolverines became the first team in NCAA history to start 5 freshmen in a championship game. Michigan came up short against Christian Laettner's Duke squad in the 92 final. But with all 5 of the team's stars expected back the following season, a 1993 title seemed all but assured. Along the way, the Fab Five earned a reputation as rebels. Their on-court bravado, plus their baggy shorts and black socks under black sneakers look, rankled traditionalists while appealing to young fans. The Fab Five were good, and they knew it. That confidence was only bolstered by a 31-5 season in 92-93, with Webber blossoming into the consensus #1 overall pick in the 1993 NBA draft. The ahead-of-his-time big man averaged 19.2 points, 10.1 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 2.5 blocks, and 1.4 steals on 61.9% shooting as a sophomore, giving Michigan the best player on the floor every time the Wolverines took the court. Michigan entered the 93 NCAA tournament as the West Region's #1 seed, and after dispatching Coastal Carolina, UCLA, George Washington, Temple, and Kansas, all that stood between the Wolverines and a championship was the East Region's #1 seed, UNC. The Tar Heels controlled a tight contest throughout, nursing a 5-point lead in the game's final minute before things went haywire. A Jackson jumper followed by a North Carolina turnover on the ensuing inbound gave Michigan the ball in a 1-possession game with 46 seconds left. Webber then cleaned up an offensive rebound following a Rose miss on what would have been a game-tying 3, and Michigan had suddenly trimmed the deficit to 1 point with 36 seconds left. Webber then collected another huge rebound when UNC forward Pat Sullivan missed a free throw, giving the Wolverines the ball down 2 with 20 seconds remaining. What followed, unfortunately, became the most indelible possession of Webber's Hall of Fame career.
Long, a 2 to tie. Michigan will have to bring it. Oh, he walked!
Yup. With the ball and a potential championship in his hands, and no real defensive pressure in front of him yet, the best player in college basketball traveled. But that's not what this video is about, because Webber got away with the walk. What C-Web couldn't get away with, and what he hasn't been able to live down in the 3 decades since, is what happened next. Webber hurriedly brought the ball up the floor and was somewhat trapped in the corner, picking up his dribble right in front of Michigan's bench. Just as broadcaster Jim Nantz explained to the millions watching on television that the Wolverines were out of timeouts, Webber called timeout.
Webber brings it into the front court. They have no timeouts remaining.
Oh, he causes too many timeouts. That's a technical foul.
He called a timeout. Michigan doesn't have any.
A huge mental mistake.
The epic brain fart resulted in a turnover, 2 Tar Heels free throws, and possession, effectively sealing the game and the championship for North Carolina.
We're down by 2. Get on our side of the court. I picked up my dribble. Called the timeout. That was, whatever I did, that's what was going through my head. And it probably cost our team the game.
In the years since, many have pointed to the fact players on Michigan's bench appeared to be telling Webber to call time, while others, like former Wolverines teammate James Voskuhl, claimed that players were actually yelling no timeout. To his credit, Webber, who recorded 23 points, 11 rebounds, and 3 blocks on 11 of 18 shooting in the loss, never sought others to blame. Did the bench say it? Yeah, they said it. Did I hear it? I don't know. And if I did, that's a fake excuse. I was the man on the team. That was my team, man. The best player is supposed to take responsibility, Weber told ESPN in 2021. The fallout was swift. A despondent Weber was lambasted by media, fans, and critics alike, and the 20-year-old would soon after declare for the '93 draft. Just like that, the Fab Five era was over without a championship to show for it, and with Weber's sparkling collegiate career ending in ridicule. Rose and Howard played one more season at Michigan before jumping to the NBA, with King declaring for the '95 draft. The Wolverines wouldn't play in another national title game until 2013. Adding insult to injury was the fact Weber's involvement in an off-court scandal eventually stripped the Fab Five's success from the record books. In 2003, Weber pleaded guilty to criminal contempt for lying to a grand jury about his role in the Ed Martin scandal, admitting that in 1994, he paid the disgraced Michigan booster roughly $38,000 in cash as a partial repayment. Weber, by then a Sacramento King, served an NBA suspension. His old college program faced stiffer penalties. The Wolverines' self-imposed sanctions included them vacating their final 4 games from 1992 and the program's entire 92-93 campaign. In addition, banners commemorating Michigan's success in 1992 and 1993 were taken down from the Chrysler Arena rafters. The NCAA also ordered the program to disassociate itself from Weber until 2013.
Because I haven't been back to Chrysler Arena since the day I left when I was 20 years old going to the NBA.
Wow.
No, the timeout, you know, it's one game, and don't get me wrong, that was devastating. That was devastating.
So why not go back?
But I haven't been back because they banned me from the place. You know, like, you have to understand the history.
For Weber and for those who witnessed the events of April 5th, 1993, the memory can never be erased. For fans of a younger generation, they can simply log on to YouTube, watch programs like this, and bear witness to the infamous piece of basketball history. Check the record books, however, and they'll tell you Michigan merely went 0-4 that season. For Weber and the Wolverines, perhaps that kind of uneventful failure would have been easier to stomach. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video and want to see more content like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button.